drifted alarmingly in the betting was, Felsted in the morning continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Burns.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Master's Inquiry Sunday Sermon. Yes, a cracking show tonight. Our off-pod chat was rather illuminating. Three angry men discussing racing topics and, of course, your questions. And joining me, as always, tonight, John and Chris, to discuss what needs to be discussed. Welcome.
Good evening.
World weary and saddle sore.
Yes.
Your saddle sore, John. God, the image is going around there.
Yes.
Right, indeed. The good thing this week is we've not got much of a racing review. Well, there's two horses to discuss, that's all. So, John, we shall get through it rather swiftly.
Yeah.
Shishkin in the Denman Chase. I would like your take on it, please.
Well, it depends what you think about Hitman, really. If you thought Hitman was resurgent, or if you just think he plodded past Protectorate and they both had it. I mean, he's going to go at the Gold Cup, isn't he? He probably would have won the King George. You'd say from the home contingent, he's got the largest chance in the Gold Cup.
So he's quoted at 9-1 to win.
Yeah.
To win the principal champion National Hunt Horse of the Year. Now, the problem for me with the form is that Hitman travelled all over him. He's had 47 win-ups. I just think Hitman's Hitman. And if you look at the time, and I know I'll bore Chris here. I know Chris has probably gone for a piss while we talk about this.
Yeah, no, I just want to know what the work rider says. I'm not interested in that. I want some 16-year-old YTS kid tell me what to bet.
Well, the fact that Making Your Mind Up and Rock My Way in the handicap chase later in the day only ran 2.5 seconds slower than Shishkin. And Shishkin, bear in mind, John, Shishkin was off the bridle.
Yes.
Quite a way in that contest. He's on the verge of becoming ungenuine, isn't he? He's bored, isn't he?
He definitely made something to amuse him, I think.
You maybe put like banana splits on before he runs in stable. The bingo driving in it car.
Yeah.
Jamie Osborne.
You think he's going to Wesley Wards if you do that?
You get better drugs there, though, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Not be as lazy then. Be perked up.
We'll all be going to Wesley's.
Be running at 7 furlongs at Santa Anita.
back at quarter horse or something, wouldn't they? Go like a bullet.
As all National Hunt fans are shocked. But anyway, so Shishkin for me, I think there's something in him. The refusal to race. I'd have said if they'd have gone like a searching test in that, and it's like, oh my God, how do you keep up with this pace?
Yeah.
I'd say fair enough coming off at bridle, but I come back to the same argument that in Ergamine, that battle that day at Ascot, it were like Balboa and Drago in Rocky IV, weren't it?
You love a Rocky analogy, don't you?
Yeah,
you have to get Rocky once a week.
It broke him. It broke Rocky. That's what broke Rocky. That was it. Then they had to bring in Tommy Morrison for the next show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had AIDS in your face.
Yeah. And the promoter of Tommy Morrison that said, "Hit me and I'll sue."
Yeah.
Anyway,
sounds like Don King as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. I would say Shishkin is an absolute farm goat on that, and I'm more than happy if I was a Galloping Deschamps fan, John. I'd be taking that 10-11 even more so now, I think.
Yeah, getting very hard to come up with alternatives, isn't it?
It is. Edwardstone won the game Spirit, again by an absolute landslide. I don't really buy into the form. Amarillo Sky finished lame, and that was because...
That's good, yeah, I backed it.
That's because Chris backed it. And
At 14-1 earlier in the week. I got the value, didn't I? I got the value.
Yeah, I tell you what though, the South Coast message was right. Headed to get it to geek non-runner, late non-runner as well.
Didn't I tell you as well? I
Yeah.
said that's the only reason the South Coast people stuck that up. But of course, Joe Tizard, I mean, fuck me, he stops clocks, doesn't he? Christ.
Yeah, but finished lame. Boothill was tired when falling at the last. And I did remark on Friday's podcast, despite our terrible tipping this weekend, I did feel that Boothill hadn't missed many dancers. And despite the 6 week, I was happy he had 6 weeks off. But to me, I just think I'd done its running for the year. That's him done. And he was well beat at the last. The form of that is absolutely nothing whatsoever. The time's not like miraculous. It's not like as if like, oh my God, what a time. You know, he fucking smashed clocks. I just think that's Edward Stone being your little demon on your note back in November when you said you won't see the winner's enclosure. But you rightly corrected yourself, John, when you said on the show Friday you fear the worst for that note.
Yeah, he sort of dropped on one, I think.
It was a bad race, and I cannot have entertain either in any shape or form for either festival race.
Well, I think we know what they'll be doing in the champion chase now that we're going out there and
trying to make all
an 8-length lead to the top of the hill and all the rest of it. And I can't see it ending well, to be honest.
So that's the review done. We could talk about the Betfair hurdle, the handicap hurdle that's worth more than any festival handicap.
It annoyed the hell out of me, actually, the Betfair hurdle, because I ended up back in the runner-up.
Oh, Lord the Sud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had Hitler on the phone on Saturday morning, and he made a bit of a case for it and said he backed it. And I thought, I can't bear the fucking thought of him.
You got to have a few quid on him.
I ended up having a few quid at 38. And LJP comes and kicks me in the bollocks.
And let's talk about JP, just to finish off the review.
Stop it up for fun.
What an amazing game, is it? We've seen it lots of times before, of course, but not necessarily with a... Well, we have actually. We've seen him do it with favourites. There's no fucks given with the JP colours when they say no. And to be fair, Adam Norman tipped this on the Friday show, and I was going to bring it up, but I thought, nah, you don't like to piss on somebody's chips. But the fact they've run it at 2.5, dropped it to 2 on unfavourable terms suggests that they've worked their arse off to get 119. Yeah. So if they'd have won that today, yesterday, making headways rate 129, you've got to give it 4. You're essentially going to be off 135 to 140.
Yeah.
So what was the point in the first place of getting 119 and then? But I didn't see the point of the entry. I try to work these out, this lot. And I just can't half the time. But this is a serious horse. I agree with Norman's paddock comments. Whatever they line it up for, it's going to be interesting. But I think everyone's seen it, though, haven't they? I mean, they actually had John Joe in.
Only to make sure that they get the nod when it's off. Just so we see that. Here's our numbers. Send us a text nice and early. Yeah, off you go.
Yeah, that reminds one of your favourite racing films, Rainbow Jacket, and the stewards interviewing the jockey. Well, look, let me know. Well, let me know when it's D-Day.
Exactly.
And we'll brush it under the carpet. There you
go. Beckett's carpet again. Get that out.
That's the review done, I think. There's nothing much more to say about the weekend. People talked about the Newcastle debacle this week of the switching race to Saturday after the BHA couldn't work out when it went dark. But as we've said on this podcast for a few years now, they don't know what day it is, never mind when it goes dark. So don't expect fireworks from the BHA.
Unless it's at the Derby start, then you can have as many fireworks as you like, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
The one day not to expect
hundreds of millions of pounds worth of force is gathering for the greatest classic on earth. Well, let's have some fireworks, yeah.
That was to celebrate John Batten running off with about 40 grand prior to the Derby. On the Downs.
Yeah, sponsored by Nike,
The John Batten Memorial Stake.
Pair of running shoes for every winning punter. Yeah, just do it.
Yeah, Nike Air Max. Where's he gone? Yeah. Imagine the sight of that. You're running back with your ticket and there's a gap in pictures.
Fucking jumping over the fences with his hand, keeping his hat on his head. I can imagine that. Yes.
You can just imagine like an old like BMW 735i waiting for him just
Come
on the
on,
other
yeah,
side
come
of
on.
the track.
Till we've run
You know,
out of
like
petrol. For
jumps
fuck's
in the
sake, I
back.
told you to fill it up. Yeah.
Indeed. Right. So that's the review, and I hope you enjoyed our particular review. So forget Shishkin and Edwardstone at the festival. Think about other horses to back. Serious part of the show before we come on to some questions. And I've been nosing around this week in the old affordability stuff. And I'll be honest, after 3 years of doing this, I mean, there'll be some listeners that are probably bored of this as well. I'm bored of it. But then it's all right to say we're bored of it, but this is going to affect racing and affect our lives. I predict within about 2 years or a bit more, I think the exchange will be finished. You can come back to this podcast and say otherwise if I'm wrong. The snakes are all coming in now. And I listened to a podcast this week, chaps, The Gambling File. It's an interesting podcast because obviously it talks about the betting industry and betting, and it's worth a listen to some episodes if ever you come across it. Gambling Files. A guest on this week's podcast was a chap called Tom Farrell, Chief Operating Officer of ClearStake. And what ClearStake do is the affordability side for bookmakers. I was listening to how it all works, as in what their system's going to do. Presumably the white paper eventually gets passed through with the stakes that we're all allowed to bet, etc., etc. And Tom Farrell comes across as a right cunt.
Well, so do we, to be fair. I mean, but
We do. So Tom, if you do listen to this, we also do. So I'm fair game for criticism. I don't care. I think you'd sell orphans. He came across me as one of these technocrat, careerist. Look at me. Look at what our company's done. Look at this software. He didn't give a fuck about punters. He just cared about what this could do for the operator. So basically, what ClearStake is, just to put it into sort of simple terms, is if they got the job of running affordability, like big books, what happens is the so-called frictionless check would involve where ClearStake, instead of like asking a punter for like driving license, picture your mother's maiden name with you doing a TikTok dance in front of your house number, would eventually evolve a customer clicking on a link that ClearStake provide. It then accesses your online bank account and sends all the data back to ClearStake, who then immediately, this is like within like split seconds, send an affordability so-called rating back to the bookmaker.
to have a fucking bet.
Well,
to have a bet.
that's just not happening, is it?
No.
Well,
to
wait,
have a
well,
bet.
you said that. I think it will happen.
No,
sure,
I mean,
sure,
it's not happening if the send made a link.
Rhetorically, yeah, exactly, yeah.
But this is what racing faces. And if you listen to the podcast, well, I say it's the Gambling File. I suggest you do listen to the sniggering
By whom? Who's
by Tom Farrell, right?
Yeah.
Who is head
Right.
officer
of
at
ClearStake,
ClearStake.
yeah.
And he admits it's a total red herring. He says, "Oh yeah, I listened to the DCMS inquiry into affordability, and the one thing, the funny thing to take out, the red herring that is frictionless checks, right? They all know it's a red herring, and what's annoying is all you people that are asking your MP to do more to protect racing from this, what will destroy racing, and MPs are just replying with the stock line, these checks will be frictionless, right?
Yeah.
And he even admits, he says that's not possible.
God.
So people within the industry are saying this isn't possible. Yet MPs, I'll guarantee you, if you message your MP, right, your local MP on affordability, I guarantee they'll come back with these checks will be frictionless and it will only affect 3% of people. You have nothing to worry about. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. No, good lord.
This is a guy that works for this company that's hoping to get this big contract off Big Corp as being the independent arbiter. Because, by the way, when this happens, government will say, "Oh no, bookmakers can't take charge of affordability checks. It has to go to independents." So ClearStake, Tom Farrell, he's the man that's getting all your data and will sell it as well and make fortunes off it. And he's sniggering at the fact there's a red herring in frictionless checks. They already know they are lying through their teeth right now. And
Because then, Lee, it's what we've said time and time again. And as John has said ad nauseum, you've got a combination of people that are not merely incompetent, but they're incompetent and they lack the technical knowledge of required to understand how betting is administered will be administered in the future. They don't understand it. That's the problem, and it's the same. You can see the MP's response is frictionless. I bet if you went back to ask them and said, "Well, what is frictionless? What does it look like?" They wouldn't have the faintest idea because these aren't technically adroit enough to understand the risks that racing faces. That's your problem.
The thing for me that's scary is that this is information that's available online to anyone that's can be bothered to listen for half an hour to someone speak that is going to affect the future of our sport. And they're serious. These are serious people. This isn't somebody, we've just popped up. These probably are going to be first in line or one of the ones first in line to produce the technology to Big Corp to ascertain decision making in terms of, and he even said about like different big bookmakers will have different score levels. So I don't know, let's say if someone earns £5,000 a month, one bookmaker might let them have, I don't know, £1,000 a month on or £2,000 a month on, but yet another bookmaker might let them have less on. I'm amazed that the top level of our hierarchy, the BHA, aren't discussing and haven't got people on this. They had people to fucking listen to our podcast and send fucking threatening letters, right?
They did, and send snotty fucking
But
letters.
don't have people listening to these podcasts thinking, "Hang on a minute, this is absolutely disastrous for our sport."
Because their understanding of what's going on.
Yeah.
Their people might as well listen to an episode of the fucking Clangers.
They don't understand. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The soup dragon. I love the soup dragon. I love soup. That's all I can afford to fucking eat at the minute. But
before carrying on, as much as I love William Woodhams at Fitstairs, personality-wise, I think he's a fun guy. I think he's a good guy. He's for the industry. To hear him say tonight on a tweet that he congratulates the Racing Purse on everything they've done in the last year on affordability.
They've done nothing.
What a set of cunts.
No.
Motorhead's done the odd piece and a few others, but Jesus fucking Christ. Don't squirt there. Yes. The likes of Carl Berry, Jeff Banks, Chris Fawcett, ourselves that instigated this 3 years ago and said what was going to happen. And you all sat there and went,
as long as we can go, as Birchie can get his 400 quid each way with Bet365 overnight, that's all they cared about.
And as we know, the only time the Racing Post became involved was when some of their people couldn't get on.
Exactly right. Birchie Quarry, 800 quid each way, Schneid each way race. Yeah, lovely. Thanks for the check, Denise. When people couldn't get 8 pence on at that time. But they didn't care. So frankly, there's a part of me that whilst I want to see the sport flourish, my own end, because it's entertainment, part of me thinks I hope it does fucking crash and then they'll all have to go and look for jobs. And I'll tell you what, 90% wouldn't be employed to do anything of any great sort of impact.
No, because we'll have bought all the ice cream vans. Fuck them.
Stop me and buy one. Yeah.
That's the future. And we'll come on to that. Racecourse Food. Yeah, buy the ice cream vans.
Piccalilli. We could sell Piccalilli out of trucks, couldn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, we'd call it Marinelli's.
Marinelli's. Piccalilli, yeah. Served out of a sock. How about that? Yeah.
Was it Giaconelli's, John, and Marinelli's?
Giaconelli.
Yeah, we'll call it Giaconelli's, yeah. Sorry, wrong name. I spoiled the joke. Never mind. Right, on to the February 26th parliamentary debate that's coming in Parliament on affordability. Chris, you know where this is going, don't you?
I do. It's going nowhere. It's window dressing. All of this is window dressing. You've got to take a step back, I think, without sounding like a sort of tin-hatted conspiracy theorist. Governments and quangos always give the illusion of consultation, right? So whenever you see something goes wrong, they'll commission a review or an inquiry, and then they'll spend 2 years writing a report which says lessons must be learned, and then it's rinse and repeat. So all of these things are necessary steps on the way to legitimising something which has already been agreed. And so that's why I'm kind of disengaged with it all, because I think it's a done deal, and they're just trying to dress it up a bit.
Right for yet another Liz Truss relaunch, actually. Because she's like setting herself as the ultimate libertarian, isn't she?
Yeah.
BHA could do a lot worse than your lovely Liz a phone call and just say, look, you could make a bit of a splash, Amy, there. We're going to send a photographer.
Yeah, chuck Greg Swift in the Thames and then bring in Truss.
That's a splash. Oh, it's just so depressing, and it's just really depressing, and it's just been mishandled from day one. And I think we said, like, if the racing media, and I use that word advisedly, figuratively rather than literally, had a grip this 3-4 years ago, maybe we'd see a different version. But they did nothing, and I hold them pretty much 80% responsible.
Do you think the time's right for us to start a countdown to Harrington's resignation?
Yeah. Do you know the sad thing, though, right? It won't matter, because these people, as we've said on previous shows, are just going to get other corporate roles.
Sail upwards, don't they?
I mean, I find it amazing how in that crash we had in 2008, the bank bosses seem to end up in more glorious corporate roles.
Yep.
As a tipster, and we run a service called Bar Stewards Edge, if you don't make punters money, they don't pay, right? And they say, fuck off. Why is it then? So if we fail, we don't get any money, that's it. You're rubbish. Why should we pay you for betting tips? But yet, when you run a big corp, say like Royal Bank of Scotland, back in the day, and you do your absolute spudsing on your investments, and you make some really bad calls, right? You get another top CEO job. Don't get it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fallacy of sunk costs. Someone explained this to me once, ages ago, and he's a guy that was like quadruple bankrupt, right? Everything he touched turned to dust, and yet he seemingly had no problem raising hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds from banks and finance houses. And I said to him one day, I had a drink with him, I said, how the fuck can you kid all these people to lend you hundreds of millions of pounds on the back of a catalogue of failure? And he said, it's the myth of sunk costs. He said, by lending me more money for my next harebrained project, because he was never one of these guys that had a simple idea, it was always something that was going to revolutionize humanity. The banks that had previously lent him the money thought, well, if we miss out on this and he really does do the thing he's promising, we'll get all our money back. So it's basically like a punter chasing their losses by just keep having more on. Hopefully, eventually you'll hit pay dirt and you get all your losses back. And that's how a lot of these guys, he explained to me, managed to raise money. Whereas you or I, if you knock the bank for $1,000, that's it, you're done. But these guys can carry on and raise even more money. So I suppose the same principle applies to these guys that fail in the corporate world, get a better job next time.
There's no stigma attached to recency either, is there? Because you look at a massive failed project like Test and Trace, 37 billion goes missing for let's face it, a big pile of fuck all. Now, what kind of idiot would employ the person that was in charge of that next time?
Answers on a postcard. Bar Steward's mug for the right answer.
The problem there, John, won't they have a runner in the National?
Michelle Dooney there, yes.
Yeah.
It's all right, because I think Dido will be presenting the trophy, and it's Randox still anyway, isn't it, from the old Randox scandal, so nobody gives a shit about money.
Imagine that triangle. Dido Harding presenting Baroness Merd.
Television gold, wouldn't it, eh? I pity poor Ed Chamberlain looking for a positive story out of that fucking pot. Jesus wept.
You need a story there, won't you?
Well, can we film the party on the yacht? Oh shit, no, we can't.
Rags to riches.
You need fucking Dostoevsky to write that, wouldn't you? Christ.
Yeah, right. So carry on regarding the Gambling Commission. So there's a parliamentary debate that we think will be useless, and that's easily predictable. There'll be about 20 MPs turn up for that, of which 18 will be on the anti-gambling side. Blue Ringe, Carolyn Harris, she'll be there. Like
one of the positive ones will be Matt Hancock.
That's where you fucked as well, because his word's as good as there's no word whatsoever. So it's not going to be good. So despite racing celebrating, we've got a parliamentary debate.
Yeah,
you wait for it. Predicted on Bar Stewards, it will be terrible. Keeping on Andrew Rhodes, I've said this week, and I tweeted it on the account, where I said that I think Andrew Rhodes is either stupid or bent, or possibly both. And I don't care about being libelled. Right, this man clearly has an agenda set by his overlords. He was questioned on LinkedIn about the National Lottery. So all of a sudden, racing, you can't have 125 quid on without being affordability checked. And yet, National Lottery, you can go and buy grand's worth of scratch cards on a credit card. It doesn't make sense. So Andrew Rhodes responded to this chap in a dismissive manner, saying the poster was combative and it does so much for good causes. On that logic, then, right, Bet365 that probably pay 300 to 400 million in taxation every year to the UK government could argue the fact that, which they won't because we know they want them in, they could say, well, hang on a minute, we pay 300 to 400 million in taxation from gambling losses that are providing services to the British public. What's the difference?
It's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, the fact that he's so combative, you'd expect someone in his position to be sort of all syrupy, kind of hail fellow well met, but he doesn't seem to have any sense of how he comes across, you know, from an optical point of view, does he? He's just really unpleasant, and I think I don't think he feels the need to have to be pleasant. He's there to do a job. It's a fait accompli. He's not interested in debate or any dialogue, is he? What's the point? So he doesn't have to be polite, does he?
The point is, on these like fake stats that have been produced and just really anecdotal evidence that we've seen on gamblers that suffer harm from addiction and basically ruin their lives, apparently the National Lottery is the same as horse racing. So why is National Lottery getting a complete pass? It is not going to be under any affordability guise whatsoever. Right? Yes, we know why, because obviously the government take a huge slice. Is that short-sightedness? Because if this industry collapses, again, this is like what you need. This is why I've said in past pods, you need visionaries, not reactionaries. You need to work out and think, well, hang on a minute, if we fuck the racing industry, then we're going to be dealing with a lot of unemployed staff, training people that have to pack in, the game like construed into 20 or 30% of what it is now because we can't afford to run it. What's going to happen? I'm amazed at the cost benefit analysis in everything that we've done over the last 3 or 4 years, lockdowns, everything. I'm amazed at the lack of people that just hang on a minute. If we do this, what's it going to do? What's the impact assessment? No one does it.
But they're clueless, aren't they? They're shit. They're shit. They can't do it. Well, if they do it, Lee, they're just not very good at it. They couldn't predict what's going to happen the next minute, and yet you're asking these people to sort of kind of join up some quite disparate, complicated set of arrangements and come out with a prediction. And it's way beyond their capability, I think.
I mean, they can't even like plan a race where sunlight's going to be an issue. I mean, so what fucking chance have we got? Well, hang on a minute. What's this going to do in the long term for horse racing's finances? You haven't got a clue. If you're sat there in meetings with big corp, let's say they sit round with Bet365 representatives and all the big corp and be gaslit by what they're telling them, you know, and ARC and everyone else, do they actually think that that's going to transpire? It's not, because these are concerns that are basically running for their own shareholders. They don't give a flying fuck about whether racing...
No, they don't. They don't, do they?
No.
They don't. Couldn't care less.
No.
Couldn't care less. But I'll give you an example of how, how private sector and public sector staff or employees or senior personnel are completely mismatched when it comes to commercial negotiations. And, this will resonate with you, John. I mean, it's classic stuff. I used to know a guy that in the olden days had a contract to do sort of ad hoc electrical work on the London Underground, right? And he wasn't sort of one man outfit. He had a sort of team of about 200 staff, etc. So basically, if a light bulb goes pop in the ticket office at whatever Turnham Green Tube, 24-hour service pump, he managed to negotiate a contract with them where he would charge £1,500 to change a light bulb. And within a year, the guy's driving a Rolls Royce. And I said, how the fuck did you manage to convince somebody that 1,500 quid to change a light bulb was good value? And he said, A, these people don't understand how the commercial world works. B, they're slightly intimidated. C, it isn't their money. And D, well, who gives a shit? As long as it gets it signed off, someone else will come along 5 years' time and go, what bad value? And these are the same mentality that that government departments were being charged by Fujitsu from the post office £2,000 to sort of reboot computers that froze, right? And because they're not experienced in doing commercial negotiations. So the private sector say, "Oh, this needs to be done. It's going to cost £2,000." And all right, then it sounds right if you say so, because they don't know any better. And that's the problem. And you're always going to get this mismatch.
I just think it's laziness. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah, could be,
right?
could be.
The reason I say this with politicians and racing's leaders, so like me and you, like if working out right, what's the best
Yeah,
way to change your boiler or something
yeah.
like that, right? So
Marry a new one. Boom.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, or whatever. Yeah, but you make sure you do a lot of research before you actually do it.
Course.
What I feel is the problem with the BHA and government, right? They don't do any research. There's
because
no.
it's your money, Lee. That's where you'll sit there, do the researching, and say, "Well, I'm going to have to pay for spoilers." So you're invested. These people have no investment emotionally, or certainly not financially. So who gives a shit? It's someone else's money.
Mm.
Unless you're going to get kicked in the teeth for negotiating a bad contract. And bear in mind, the people that review it aren't really commercially savvy either, so they're not going to know it's a bad deal till 5 years later. Who gives a shit? Why do you're not? There's nothing in it for you to negotiate a hard contract. So fuck it, not your money. So it is laziness, and it's also a lack of commitment, really.
Just to finish this section of the show and to prove that I do my research and I do know what I'm on about, and that's not a brag, it's just that I do it for you to listen, and it helps, it stops you from having to do it. Section 4 of the Gambling Commission website's sort of like protocol and way forward. Listen to this, because this is stuff that no one can be asked to read. Why would they? You got to fucking work in a day. Why would you bother to listen to Section 4 of the Gambling Commission's operative sort of protocols? Ensure that the National Lottery is run and promoted with due propriety. Ensure that every participant in the lottery are protected. Let that sink in. This is number 1 of their Section 4. They're there to protect participants of the lottery, right, from any wrongdoing or miscreants. Doesn't mention racing or other people that are having accounts frozen, balances not returned because they won't provide mafia-style affordability sort of documentation, dancing in front of their house on TikTok. So that's the first thing that was interesting. The best bits to come, though, and to do the best to secure that the net proceeds of the National Lottery are as great as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So if ever you wonder why lottery is exempt from affordability checks, it's right there. And I'm sorry, this is just bent. That's why I made the tweet in the week. It's either bent or stupid. Obviously, government are happy with this, because if they weren't, they'd be saying, no. Where's this rule come from? So the fact that you can play the lottery, no problem. Credit cards, yes, scratch card, lovely. Lovely, sir, yes. Going to good causes. Coming on to that, just to back that up, Andrew Rhodes on LinkedIn responded about a national lottery question from an horse racing punter. What about this, Andrew? I could walk into a newsagent and buy a grand worth of scratch cards on credit card. He said they were being combative and it's all about good causes. I've mentioned that earlier, but the point is, it tallies with their objectives. Racing needs to wake the fuck up. Honestly, this is serious now. If you want an industry in a few years' time, you better start acting on this. Trainers, jockeys, media, BHA, useless, need to start acting. This is not funny. This is not something that is going to go away or, everyone will be fine. It only affects 3%. No, the exchanges will finish when affordability comes in. The reason why, how the fucking hell can you have a £2,000 90-day affordability check on an exchange? That's laying like 200 quid out of one at 8 or whatever. You're done then for 3 months. Can't have another bet. No, you've exceeded. Fuck off. This is just nonsense. Telling people how they can spend their money. If you bring this in, government, or any government that brings this in, bring it in for anything then. Bring it in for airline flights, holidays, anything. Can you afford a holiday, Mr. Jones? Are you spending too much on your credit card to go away? Bring it in for anything. Why racing? It's terrible, and we need to protect our industry. And at Barsters, we mentioned this a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I'm tired of it. You're probably tired of listening to me on it. But seriously, it's a passion. Racing will be finished if we don't fight this. and fight this unilaterally across the industry. End of words. We move on. Agree with that, chaps?
Absolutely.
Yeah, 200%. Yeah, you can't not agree with that.
Before we move on to other topics, can I just mention, Lee?
Sure.
I read it this week, the Graham Lee article in the Post.
Yes.
And about Graham's situation, and my admiration for that man is beyond belief. Talk about taking it on the chin. He's suffered life-changing injuries there. He's not looked around for a no-win, no-fee solicitor. How can he sue? His family have been super supportive. We could all aspire to have a family like that. His daughter's running a Twitter page showing him messages of support and what have you. And I noticed there's been 188,000 raised. Why the hell don't the BHA have a scheme in place where somebody has career-ending injuries, like Graham has, where they automatically get $250,000? How hard would it be to set something like that up?
I concur with just about everything you've said there. Honestly, you've got an art of stone if you didn't melt at Graham Lee's response. What I would say to that is I would also want to analyse the Injured Jockeys Fund's finances, because without, we're a show that just, we don't sit on the fence, and apparently they've got a lot of cash, and and they sat on it. If I'm wrong, then come on and tell me otherwise. But having read
like the Catholic Church, isn't it? Like the Vatican sits on piles of money and yet still rattles the tin.
And like you say, it comes down to a GoFundMe set up by his kids. Was it Amy? I think
I think aren't the Injured Jockeys Fund doing something for the house?
Hope so. By the way, I always buy Injured Jockeys Fund's products. I buy calendars, I buy cards, I always support the IJF. It's a tough sport for our jockeys. I don't want anyone to read that as like negative towards Injured Jockeys Fund. I'm just saying that also be careful with charities, because you always have to look into them, who's taking what. I'm always skeptical with charities because
people like me could set them up, and you wouldn't want that.
Well, no, you wouldn't. You'd have a BMW M3 and you...
Right, yeah. Oaksy House, I'm calling mine. Yeah, fucking...
Look, we know what goes off. We've seen it with Oxfam.
Yep.
We've seen it with lots of other big charities that basically...
I hate the idea of you having to rely on a charity anyway.
Yes, absolutely, John. Absolutely.
That's the thing, isn't it? Why isn't there something in place where you're not at the whim of what the charity decides to award you?
No.
When you got your jockey's licence, there was a footnote on the bottom: if you suffer career-ending injuries, you will receive X.
John, that's spot on. I would love that to happen. But I mean, the BHS can see in their accounts.
They could insure against that, couldn't they?
There's not much money in the BHA at all. It's like...
Well, they could take Julie's salary for starters, couldn't they, and just replace her with a stuffed toy.
That's why they've upped the admin fees at BHA, like for owners and shit. That's why they've really put them up, because BHA are cash skint. So that's why they're not sticking their hand in. But yeah, I agree. Like, John, it was emotional to read. You want them to get support, and I think there needs to be things in place. Like, we've got the IJF, but I'd like to know what everything that the IJF have put in exactly, amounts and everything, because...
At the minute, I just think Graham Lee has done incredible. I mean, if I was in the same situation, I'd still be sat with my head in my hands. I wouldn't want to talk to anybody.
But the thing is, there's like different scenarios. I mean, I'm not like playing big knob and small knob here. Remember the Hamilton case with the TV guys that fell off the gantry?
Yeah,
I do. Yeah, I do, vaguely. Yeah.
We put in 500 quid of our own Barstew's cash on that, right? Now, the point is, those lads like suffered probably life-changing injuries, and I don't even know since then. Heather Graham Hamilton thanked us for the plug and the donation, but like those lads didn't get anywhere like that support.
No.
People call me a twatty if I'm not belittling Graham Lee's cause. No. I'm just trying to make the point.
Their injuries, though, Lee. I mean, surely the racecourse could take out a policy against their happening.
I don't know, because I honestly, I have not.
They'd have to litigate, wouldn't they? They'd have to
Yeah,
sue them and
Yeah.
said you had a duty of care and you're in breach of it,
Yeah,
which is unacceptable.
there's lots of unfortunate cases in racing where things. Look at that chap that had his face kicked, horse bucked, and left him with
Mhm.
life-changing injuries in the paddock. I can't remember the name of the chap. He was a stable staff fellow, and he got double kicked in his forehead and became incapacitated after that. So there's lots of sad stories from working with horses because it's obviously a dangerous sport. So look, I get it all, and like you said, John Graham Lee, fantastic, and I hope he gets the support from everyone that he deserves. But there's also, I think, there's grey areas where I bet people are thinking, well, I wish I'd have had that kind of support and didn't get it.
I'm sure.
But it's probably wrong of me to say that right now. Maybe in the mood of the audience, maybe I'll get another 12 or 14 tweets saying I'm a CUNT again on Monday after. That's how it is. Right, anyway, we move on. Peta wants to go and ban animals that take place on rides, like the carousel. Chris, John.
You're going to have to unpack this for me. I didn't see that. What's that about?
Carousel on Derby Day.
Yeah.
According to Peta, you won't be able to
Yeah.
go and jump on a polar bear and spin round
But
7
you're
or
not.
8
They're made of
times
fucking
before
wood.
the
What
You
are they on
catch
shouldn't
about?
use animals on rides.
Oh, right.
Like, you know.
Obviously, if you've been riding a polar bear on a carousel, you might nip to the Arctic and try and
It's mad, isn't it? You can't take anything seriously anymore. I take nothing seriously. It's just
Yeah, indeed.
madness, isn't it?
Where has this madness come from in the world, do you think? Honestly, I see. Have you noticed as well, right? Most MPs, and this is on both sides of the house, this isn't just dedicated to those swines that are Tories.
Swines.
Every MP, when they come up with ideas, it's not an idea to help people or improve people's
Yeah.
lives.
No.
It's usually to ban something.
Yeah.
They want it banned or restricted. And I refer to an example of a Scottish MP, that basically wanted to ban greyhound racing.
I saw that. Yeah. I saw that. Yeah. I saw
That
that.
old idea. Yeah. And you just read it and you think, what on earth? Like, yeah, that's on the forefront of everyone's minds, isn't it?
The thing is, none of these people talk about these things pre-election. Everything pre-election is what we can do to improve things for you.
Yes.
And a week after the election, somebody's on the telly looking gravely at the camera and saying, well, we've had a look at the situation, people, and we've come to the conclusion you need to improve.
Yeah. Cheers. I blame Michael Jackson.
We've got the medicine for you.
Yeah, I blame Michael Jackson. Right, it all started with Michael Jackson. Right, now let me unpack that for you quickly.
The moonwalk.
Right, he used to go to bed in an oxygen tent with a monkey, and someone had said to him, "No, Michael, that's fucking stupid. You're a grown man. Sleep in a proper bed and get rid of the monkey." Right, but instead they said, "Oh no, Michael, what a good idea! Let's get you the best oxygen tent and the best monkey money can buy." And at that point, no matter how ludicrous it is, everybody is interest is served by making sure that their master's whims are satisfied to whatever degree.
No, because nobody can be that fucking crackers, could they? So
in the oxygen tent, that's where the West Ham chant "I'm forever blowing bubbles" came off.
She's here all week. Tip your waitress and the steak's lovely. Yeah. Chicken in a basket.
Yeah, good old West Ham fans.
Yeah.
Lovely defeat today against Arsenal. You'll be out with the Stanley knives like Davis tonight.
They're all fucking chat, that mob, honestly. Mouth.
Bit of Green out tonight.
Bit of Green Street around tonight.
Yeah, Green Street.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Helen Sheridan come on a thing about the ownership of horses. Have you noticed, like, the big owners have sort of like female names, some of them, Mrs. Fitry here, when it's really Jim, isn't it? And stuff like that. I just think, rather than bringing Ellen's point up to that degree, rather than doing it on gender, I'm doing it in a case of, are owners sort of like let off lightly here? You get these syndicates like Melton, Mowbray, Bowls Club, and it's like, it's probably not even like based in Melton Mowbray. I mean, do we need to tighten up on who each owner is? Let's say if you've got 10 owners of a horse, you've all chucked in 10% for this horse. You should all be named on the BHA website, because how do you track gambling? For example, like on Betfair, they did the memorandum of understanding. If you belong to the Melton Mowbray Bowls Club, you need to register that. So the BHA says, right, how many's in this? Right, there's 10. Right, so who are the 10? And then you get the names. So at least you've got their Betfair activity, etc. When they're taking a few quid out, it's not off, that kind of thing.
They never do that though, do they? Because every time any of the poor bastards ring up the trainer and says, just have a bit each way.
Yes, it's classic. Have a bit each way. It should run well today. Yeah.
I think ownership should be more strictly tracked than what it is. Look at the latest sort of like fad with horses that have been running in Ireland appear in England under some random, or either the trainer's name or a club. It's a club. It's an actual club. Yeah. It's trained by Matthew Smith or John O'Brien in Ireland.
Here's one for listeners to get in touch. If you're in a syndicate with a 10th or smaller share, please get in touch and let us know if the trainer has ever said on the morning message, no, we're not jigging. Get what you want out the place market.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's why I want to touch on that rather than go on gender. I get it. So for some reason, these like billionaire owners always put them in the missus's name. And
they'll have to interview Lady Ogden now, won't they?
Yeah. Philip Green.
Yeah.
Now Bob's gone.
Philip Green as well. His missus had all that.
One man and his dog, his mullet could run in that, couldn't it, John?
Oh, yeah.
Phil Drapple.
Could be like one of the top sheep herders.
Come by, away. Phil Drabble, whatever happened to him? I used to love Phil Drabble, one man and his dog. I even bought his fucking autobiography. About how boring am I?
Yeah, you are. But before we do the funny bits, Racecourse Food.
Oh.
There's a problem here, though, isn't there? The racecourses charge an apparent amount to these vendors, so the vendors have to put the prices up. But having seen a chicken sandwich with mayo put by Martin Chapman of Star Sports, like you even said, Chris, you wouldn't give that to the dog.
No.
You give it to somebody else's dog if you're trying to poison it.
Yeah. £9.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can reveal today, Councillor Woodman has been messaging Arena, influential people within racing, Nevin at the Jockey Club, to actually up the game on this. Because if you look on social media, apparently there's a Jacket Potato van in Tamworth.
The Spudman, yeah.
Yeah, the Spudman. They queue for an hour to get a Jacket Spud. Like from this.
How to get on TikTok.
It's like shameless, isn't it? It's like the ice cream man, isn't it? You know. But no, seriously, this guy is like different class with Jacket Spuds. Racing needs to tap into these people, because not only that, it's good on social media, because these will have big followings on social media, these vans, these food joints. And that's the way forward.
Well, they kind of tapped in, Lee, because they've got Claire Smith, Gordon Ramsay protege at Ascot this year.
All right.
So that'll be 90 quid a plate, won't it? So,
for a Jacket Spud, yeah.
Councilwoman said, if this guy turned up at Wolverhampton on Lincoln Trials Day, they'd have about 2,000 on attendance. Because like they always queue for this guy's. But again, this is where racing probably needs a bit more dynamism. Charlotte, go racing in Yorkshire. I know you listen to this. You've told me so. York's great, obviously. York is fantastic. But your tracks in Yorkshire, source local produce that people love out, and you'll get extra on the attendance. They'll say, well, and make a deal of it.
Chinese fella over, Uncle, whatever his name is.
Uncle Peter from Linda Perrot's, the Hong Kong chef.
No, I mean the Chinese fella that eats anything. The one John likes.
No real gardener, yeah.
I don't think people's going to be in like Ox's.
He went a step too far this week, anyway.
Yeah, fertilised eggs, Ox's penis.
90 quid a
celebrity stuff, really. Yeah, it is what it is. We move on. Bond songs. Nick Davies asked us for like Bond songs recommendations. I just think there's only one. It's Live and Let Die. I mean, the guy coming out the floor is like, as you know, that's my image of life. You know, Baron Samedi. It was a good horse with Joseph O'Brien as well. The Live and Let Die, Wings. That was the film for me. And Davis didn't mention that in his top three. He's very disappointing. What would be your top Bond song?
I like that Sam Smith one.
Yeah.
And I think my favourite would be Lolo, the man with the golden gun.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. I mean, look, if you've got a Bond villain that has three tits,
yeah,
it's a film, isn't it? Like who has three tits apart from her in Total Recall?
Yeah.
That's right. Go with that, Chris.
Well, I'm not really a James Bond fan, but I like Diamonds Are Forever as a song. But that's it. I've never been a fan of that. Never been a fan of the films, really. Prefer the books, actually, where he's a sort of pill-popping neurotic junkie. So, true to the original.
I love
the original. The books are phenomenal. The books are phenomenal. He's absolute fucking just a junkie wreck. And obviously, when he went to the silver screen, they transformed him into this suave, urbane character. But the books, he's an absolute fucking nut job. So I like the books, not so much film.
There you go. Next subject. This is good. Annoyances.
Yeah, there's lots, isn't there? The thing I put on the actual tweet triggers me something terrible if the bog rolls on the wrong way on the dispenser.
yes.
That could actually ruin my day.
This was a couple that I picked out that are quite funny on the questions. AJB's been on. He says, what annoys the crap out of me is when someone else presses the button at a Pelican Crossing when it's clearly been pressed already.
Oh, horrendous.
It's a war crime, isn't it?
Make it happen faster. Make me cross faster.
Yeah, exactly. Keep pressing the button like in the
bastards that keep pressing it as well,
Yeah. I've been at a crossing once in London where people pressed it like 4 times. It was lit. Yeah.
Full bin bags. I hate full bin bags because no fucker in this house, I'm raising my voice in case people hear me, no fucker in this house ever thinks to tie the bin bags off and take them outside. It's always down to me. So I hate full bin bags. That's my pet hate.
Tom Livermore, people that play music or video clips without headphones on public transport. I don't go on peasant wagon. Last time I was on a peasant wagon, I hated it. The producer, it was an electric bus, and we know they blow up and catch fire. We don't want to go.
That's what Elon wants.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, we'll all set on flames. You know, like be like a Sia song, Flames. So Tom Livermore, good point. That horrible. They want you to listen to their music.
Yep.
But then you might not want to. Absolutely, 100%. Scarf wearers from good old Chris Gartner, contributor to the podcast. Scarf wearers, the old Betfair scarf wearers. I don't mind it really if you get them free on a day and it's a cold day, but it's the ones that keep them and keep wearing them.
Yeah, there is that, isn't there?
I've never understood scarves.
No.
Really. I don't think I've ever worn a scarf in my life.
No, you don't really need to. Racing-wise, if you wear a coat and you zip your coat up to your chin, why do you need a scarf?
Not a silk scarf. I can imagine you, John, racing down the country lanes in an open-top sports car with your silk scarf flapping in the breeze. No, is that not an image that resonates with you or not?
No,
right. It does me, so up your arse. Yeah.
It's outside toilets and things like that.
Where's the scarf to go to the bog at 2 in the morning? Yeah.
By the way, and this is true, 7 years old, the first house my mum bought, it was an outside toilet.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
It's the north. It's the north. The bathroom just had the bathtub, the sink. There was no toilet in there. So basically, in the winter, like -4, you had to go for a shit.
When it was sub-zero, we used to have to put a paraffin lamp near the pipe to stop it freezing up.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We had a paraffin heater. Yeah, I can remember that. Powered by paraffin.
Times were hard, eh? Trouble up mill.
It's trouble up mill. Up mill. Trouble up mill up there.
You're hard man, Bradley Hardacre. Hard but fair.
Yeah, that's why we are harder though. That's why all you southern Southern
southern
softies
shite.
now,
Yeah, all of that.
You have to deal in coke to make a living.
Yeah,
Right.
and we all got razors. We all slashed each other's faces in fights by the docks. Yeah, that's London.
Final question. Final question to finish the show, which has been a good one. Thank you, chaps. It's been very informative and very, I think, forthright. So, final question is from Samuel the Cat, who always comes up with the best questions on this podcast.
Yes.
I like this one. He said, "We all mess up and make silly decisions throughout our lives, but only living through it gains you wisdom. What words of wisdom would you give to a young person starting out to save them cocking up? It can be gambling rules, general decisions in life, or types of people to avoid." So I'm going to come to you two first, Chris.
I would say to any young person, I could answer sort of like semi-humorous way, but I think a serious piece of advice I give to a young person, I give to my son. I said, just take a chance. While you're young, you can roll the dice as many times as you want, but when you get house, family, and all that, your appetite and ability to take risks just drops off a cliff. So my regret is when I was young, I should have taken so many more risks because I think I'd have been in a much better place now. So I would be saying to a young person, if you fancy doing it, just fucking doing it. If it goes wrong, start again.
No, good stuff. Lovely that. John?
If you've got the 5, you don't need the 1.
Nick Davis's answers to not backing fives on shots.
Definitely.
Stay clear of short prices, John, is your advice, like really short prices.
Well, really sharp prices, yeah. I would maybe offer up another bit of advice saying never let yourself get in a situation where you're relying entirely on someone else to do something that puts them out to save the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Single point of failure. That's where things always go wrong, isn't it? Where you kind of push all your chips over and say, well, if this happens, if he pays me to do that, and it doesn't happen, then you're screwed. And I think that's sound advice for anybody, whatever age.
Samuel the Cat, it's a great question, and I come back to the 1973 book I read by Dick Mitchell, and it shaped my persona and betting life, really, in that what you've got to think as a youngster, that if you think about it, we're all animals, gorillas, cows, it's herd animals, yeah? You have to do what the 99% don't do, which is to validate anything you do in life. Check, research, validate for yourself, have your own opinion, right? This is why I bet for a living, right? This is not some kind of, Keys is on a pedestal. I'm not. I'm a bottom feeder in the professional gambler world. There are more successful professional gamblers than me. I don't care about them. I don't compare myself to them, right? The point is, you have to do what the rest aren't willing to do, which is to validate and check your life choices, right? That means if you've been told something, check it out. Don't just be told, oh, this horse only acts on soft ground, for example. Check it out. Make sure that that's what you think. Just because someone says it, don't mean it's accurate. That's the point. Don't be a sheep, and make sure you make your own decisions. And in the end, you are what you do.
That's it, because everybody said you'd never make money betting with your laptop on your lap, bollock naked with your feet in a foot spa. You're totally wrong.
That's incredibly accurate. And on that bombshell, to quote Clarkson, we'll end this show. And I hope you've enjoyed it. And we seriously do. We return next week, by the way. So we don't want questions for next week's show because we have got Stuart Williams on board, chewing the fat about the racing industry and where we're going wrong, basically, which is a follow on from this show. So I hope you enjoyed this. Bye for now.